we might kick it off, guys. We've only got a small intimate group, but we are recording this session, and they should be able to provide an update to other members later. And I do want to thank Mr. Rod Jacker, the Executive General Manager of L&H. Just put your hand up, Rod, so we know who's who. And also welcome Ross McGee, the Managing Director of Hager Pacific. Thank you for joining us this morning, Ross. Put your hand up there. Look, the purpose of today is to give our members a little bit of an update from the supply channel point of view. There's obviously a major impact on the industry from the virus. Most of us would have seen the Prime Minister's address last night and moving closer and closer to that lockdown situation. For the benefit of those online, I've been advocating strongly in the last few days with state and federal governments around the electrical industry being considered part of the essential service. I do note the significant comments from the Prime Minister last night that anybody with a job at the moment is an essential service, and we've got to keep all of those jobs going and keep the wheels of industry turning. I do have no doubt from my discussions with politicians, and I got Victoria this afternoon and the federal government tomorrow, that if we do go down to a much harder lockdown in the future, that the electrical industry will still be encouraged and able to get out there and work and keep the power on. Not much will happen without the power being on. And that will most likely including the channels to get product into the contractors' hands so they can actually put the power on. So for me, that's refreshing for our industry. While we've seen other industries get absolutely slaughtered, that our industry will actually be on life support but still functioning. And it's probably up to our members to reshape, downsize, manoeuvre their businesses to take advantage of the changed market conditions so they can still stay alive and then be ready to capitalise this at the other end. So look, thanks everybody for joining us. I can see everyone there on the list, and we've got a few more have just popped in right now. Welcome Andrew Bowen from Tasmania. Good to see the Apple Isle across the ditch and join us. Well done. Look, I'll throw to you first, Rod, from L&H. If you can just give us a quick 2-minute snapshot of what you're seeing in the industry at the moment, what's happening with product and the buying patterns of our contractors.
Yeah, sure, Malcolm, and thank you for having me on the seminar, and welcome to your members. For us at the moment, it's pretty much business as usual in the branch network. We're not seeing significant changes. We've still got a full complement of staff in all of our branches. Our branches are more or less operating the same as they always have been, albeit with some very stringent social distancing policies and rules taking place. Not seeing too much of an impact on the supply side. Cable is the hot one. So cable lead times are really where we're seeing some supply side pressure. We've got 8 to 10 week lead times on the fast moving cable items at the moment. However, having said that, we knew that was coming, and we've been ordering up in our branch networks, and we still have cable coming through. But that's probably the only category that we're seeing a little bit of pressure on, and I'd recommend if you've got significant cable orders or projects coming up that you talk to us quickly and get back orders in, and we can manage that demand as well as the usual demand. But look, apart from that, we're not seeing too much supply side pressure. I think we'll talk about pricing later on. There will be some significant movements in prices over the coming weeks, but we'll elaborate on that later in the chat. On the management team and the leadership side, it's not business as usual. We're doing a lot on the contingency planning, with our main goals now being one, that the safety and health of our staff and our customers, and two, business continuity and contingency. So we're doing a lot of work on that, and our overriding goal on that is to keep the doors open, keep business trading in a variety of different circumstances and government policy. So pleased to say that we've got a lot of contingency plans in place, and we'll bring them into play at different levels as the situation evolves day by day.
Rod, thank you very much for that. Ross, can I refer to you now? And I asked you to do some homework and maybe give us a brief on the wider Hager company and how the market's been affected. And I might call on Elliot to bring up your presentation if you want to talk us through that.
Sure, thanks. So we've not seen a slowdown like Rod. From a broader industry, the BIS data for its construction has been growing phenomenally until the virus, and margins up. So we're currently going to do more than 20% growth this year, but to give you context, we've done that. We've doubled in the last 5 years, and we've had this is our 48th consecutive market growth in a row. So there's been no slowdown. This morning, I measured sales 5 times a day. So, however, things are about to change. So here's a response to the virus. We've got 22 factories around the world, and we were hit in China with 2 factories, obviously, on the 23rd of January when they closed down Hubei. However, our factory is not in their province. So Hager's attitude, view of this goes under an acronym of RUN, R-U-N. So we're taking the responsibility for our people, our customers, our partners very seriously for hygiene. We continue to operate. We're doing everything we can, be it air freight. We'll come back to air freight, which is not easy, but to keep supply going. But obviously, as they close countries down like Italy, where we have 1 factory, that becomes difficult. But bottom line is going to suffer. If we look forward, we know the top line and bottom line will suffer. So we've got to prepare for that. But it's in that order. Let's be responsible first, keep the business going, keep customers operating, but be prepared that this is going to hurt. So in terms of supply, even with that growth, we normally carry 3 months of stock. So our only stock issues are those that we've self-imposed through the growth. So bigger panel boards, certain new products. And with those, we've increased production. We've got more stuff on sea, in transit, and we continue to maintain about 98% stock on hand. As I said, the 22 factories. So some production logistics are affected. China is now 90% back online. Italy closed down as of last week. We don't know for how long, and that affects main switchboards and the bigger panel boards, but we've got plenty of stock probably for 4 months of those. And France completely shut down. Interesting, they shut everything down, and then 4 days later they said, oh no, electricals, essential services. But we're offline in France until the 1st of April. But that, we can handle that buffer because of the stock we have here. And just on stock, while we carry 3 months, Rod and L&H will carry 6 to 8 weeks of our stock. So total, you'll have 5 months Hager stock within Australia. Demand spikes, we have not seen any panic buying. If we did, we would ration supply, to be fair to all electricians around Australia. So we monitor that, we can see abnormal behaviour, and we can quickly limit supply. Air freight, though, is interesting. It takes 20 days to ship a product. I'll give you one factory from China to Australia. It now takes 19 days to air freight. So it's no faster on air freight, more expensive. Now, what does that affect? If we had a cyclone, a flood, or bushfire, we're probably the largest provider of changeover switches. We're going to have a problem. We have plenty, but when you get abnormal peaks, like the floods in Queensland a while back, like the bushfires recently, we had jumbos flying around to try and get more product to us very quickly. So if we have a natural disaster, which we've been prone to more and more recently, that would be the concern. So I'm sure there'll be questions. We go forward just one more. Now, the Australian dollar, 23rd of January was when China shut down, and that's when the dollar tumbled. So most of us buy goods. Our electrical standards more the ISC, European, so we buy in US dollars. Chinese normally sell in US dollars, but the one is pegged to US dollar, or we buy in euros. So this is the exchange rate to the euro and the US dollar since the beginning of January. There wasn't that much change. There were a lot of changes during the year, but overall for the year last year, not much. So you've seen a 16% decline on the US dollar and a 12% on the euro. Hager's made a decision. We are not going to change prices for the next few months. It will have too much impact on our customers. So we're not going to do it. But most manufacturers There's only 2 remaining, have put prices, Rod can even tell you better data than me, but between 10 and 15% up in the last week they've announced. But we're not going to do it. Look, obviously we'll have to do something if it doesn't improve, but we're going to wear this out at least until July. So that's a quick summary, if that helps, Malcolm.
That's fantastic, Ross. Unfortunately, a few times there, the internet's letting us down a bit. But regardless, I think we got a pretty good snapshot there. So I'll just invite any of the attendees to our webinar to use the Q&A function. If you want to ask Ross or Rod a question, if you just type it out in the box there down the bottom where you hit the Q&A bit. When I get time or we're on that topic, I'll raise that question on your behalf with Rod or Ross, and we'll be able to have a good discussion around that sort of an issue. Now, if I can go back to you, Rod, because you're right across all brands and everything else, I've heard 2.5 is the new toilet paper of the industry, and there was a bit of early panic buying in that. What have you seen in terms of panic buying, and have you done any rationalisation of any products?
I wouldn't go as far as use the term panic buying, certainly not to the extent we've seen with the toilet paper and grocery items, but to draw that analogy is probably a good one, and that's been the hot moving product in our industry. I think I mentioned earlier, but we're seeing 10 weeks plus lead time on delivery of TPS cables now. Fortunately, and we kind of saw this coming anyway, because China was the first to go down, and the cable importers from China were affected 8 weeks ago, 10 weeks ago. So we saw some shortage in supply chain. Our main supply partner for L&H is Olex, who manufacture locally as well. And we've been working very closely with them to buff up our stock levels. So we've got stock of flat cable continually coming into the network, but we're doing a lot of forward ordering, and we've actually put in double our usual demand for flat cables now, where it's just a matter of getting that through the supply chain. I spoke to some of the cable manufacturers in the last few days. They're building up raw materials, building up labour as well to help with the demand on flats. I wouldn't say it's increased demand. I think we just had a bit of a dip in supply in the supply chain 8 weeks ago, and we're seeing that come through now. But yeah, and that's really, Malcolm, the only product that we're seeing any negative supply side impact on at present, and some of the other non-flat cables, the fast movers. But again, we've got supply coming through, but my advice is don't panic. There's plenty coming through.
So we're probably very lucky as an industry to have such a wide network of corner store wholesalers that have got a lot of product on hand to soak up any of the shocks of demand and supply across the industry. Ross, if I can just touch back on the price issue, you talked about factories closing down. You must have different cost factors across different countries and different transportation methods. It must, at the end of the day, have some sort of impact on your cost to deliver some of your key products. What are you seeing there already? We've seen some of the other suppliers put some substantial increases because of their strategies in terms of product manufacturing. How's that affected Hager? How long can you soak up those increased costs before we have to pass some of that on?
Look, I mean, globally, they're European companies, so they're in euros. They're not affected. I'm affected straight on my profit. But yeah, when you close a factory down and have to ramp it up, even though there's a lot of robotics, there's still a lot of people issues. So that will have some short-term costs. And as I said in that acronym RUN, at the end, the bottom line is going to be affected. But we just, for the moment, the Hager family is saying we're going to get our way through it. The worst case scenario, though, is on our employees if we get a work suspension where effectively you can't pay people. So that is a concern. We sent a note out locally to our people. In that case, you can take annual leave. Some people are upset with that, but I'd rather let them know up front. That's the law, as opposed to afterwards. So it's very important to let people know a worst case scenario.
Absolutely.
Back because, look, from a Hager viewpoint, they know it's going to happen. We can't see it just yet.
Sorry, Ross, we just lost internet there and missed. If you could just repeat the net impact again there, sorry.
It's a medium long-term problem, not a short-term problem at this stage.
Excellent. Rod, what have you seen with other brands? You've seen a general price rise across most products in the market?
Yeah, to echo Ross's comments, 10 and 15% is right on the money. So we're getting the first of those. We'll be rolling out next month. But generally, all suppliers are coming. Or there's a few that aren't. Hager is one of those that haven't come in for price increase. There's a couple other majors that haven't, but the majority of our suppliers are pinned to the Aussie dollar and the US dollar, and getting that supply side pressure on pricing. So we'll be rolling out price increases and customer notifications coming the 1st of next month, and we're rolling that through our business now. I think it's worth mentioning that it's important that we all try and pass these prices through and don't absorb them. As an industry, as a general comment, we see contractors and wholesalers trying to absorb these prices and stay competitive. My advice to everybody would be we have to pass it through right through the end customer and make sure we don't absorb these prices ourselves. And liquidity is obviously going to be an issue for smaller businesses and smaller contractors. You need to pass these ones through and make sure we're not suffering.
Absolutely, and I can't echo those points enough. In these certain times, we need to charge what we're worth as an industry and not be scared to noting that some of the significant drop in productivity and hazards to providing our standard products, inevitable cost to the customer, but it's one of the things we simply have to pass on. Certainly agree with that. Rod, have we seen any trending to or away from quality brands during this price? Do we see contractors going back to brands they can trust, or are they flooding other places at the moment?
Malcolm, not that I'm aware of, but I probably don't have visibility into that either. Us and the other major wholesalers only stock the quality brands and, the reputable brands, and we need to do that. Again, my advice would be, there's not a supply shortage issue. It's probably now more important than ever that contractors do stick to quality brands through the main and wholesalers. We know that the quality suppliers like Hager, they're not going to disappear. They're going to be around. They've been around for a long time, like L&H. We're going to be there to support the contractors if there is any issues going forward. So no, not seeing it. Maybe it's happening. But I'd plead with everybody to stick to the known wholesalers and the mainstream brands.
Agree. We worked out through the Infinity cable debacle the value of the wholesaler in the chain as that extra layer of comfort from a contractor, and now through this crisis we're learning the extra value of the product on hand through failed delivery from overseas, that we've got that shock absorber. So we're seeing a couple of extra opportunities or reasons to shop through the channel for this sort of an issue. Ross, is there anything particular Hager is doing extra or differently because of the virus with the customers? Anything you've added to the service to help out the customers at this point in time?
It is continuation of supply, Malcolm. Yes, we're going to hold the prices back for the next 3 months. There's continuation of supply. It's difficult, and we've got to keep our sales force motivated because of safety issues. We can't do toolbox training of 10 people. So we're finding other ways, be it one-on-one or one-on-two. But it's quite, with our growth, a lot of that, most of the reps, majority of their time is with the contractor, and we want to maintain that. So it's, we're trying to help them on safety, be creative, ring before the appointment, just make sure, you've got that social distancing in place. And that's a daily creative challenge, but most of us respond for it.
I do recognise the high role Hager plays in the industry in training our contractors, and that must be dinting that area of your business at the moment, having to adopt some of those additional procedures. So I acknowledge that. Rod, back to you, just talking about the channel. Are we seeing a swing to people using your online business more? Are contractors using delivery to site more? Are we seeing a change in how the market's operating from this? And secondly, over time, do you think that might actually be a permanent change once people have encouraged into using these more advantageous services, that in 6 months' time, after really using your online business, will they end up staying there and not going back to lean on the counter at the local branch? What's your perception there?
Yeah, really good point, and maybe some good will come out of all of this. We'll all learn to work a little bit more efficiently and effectively. I'm certainly getting used to working in a home office, as is some of my team, and not spending so much time on aeroplanes. And hopefully that can continue. But our online branch has increased, and I think it's a case of, you know, fear of the unknown. If you haven't used it before, it's probably easier to keep doing what you're doing. But once people do use it, they stick to the very efficient and effective way to procure goods. We've got an e-commerce platform called eBranch, so it's www.ebranch.online. Maybe I can post that through MEA's site later on.
Absolutely, yeah.
A really effective way to buy, and you know, one of our contingency plans is if things do get tighter, we'll focus mostly on deliveries and through eBranch or traditional methods of phoning and emailing or orders through. But eBranch is a great platform. It's got 10,000 products on there with stocking and availability and a lot of other functional tools. And we're going to organise some webinar training for eBranch. And maybe again, we can post some links there through MEA so your members can access that and understand how to use it. And yeah.
We're happy to share those. My wife tried to order online groceries from Woolies yesterday, and apart from crashing, and they were setting delivery dates 3 weeks away, which is pretty useless. You haven't got any limitations to your online business at this point in time, Rod?
No, look, for all intent and purpose, it's exactly the same as being in a branch. The stock levels that you see there are from your local branch. You know, we're very much a logistics company as well. So we do 70% of our business is delivered, and we have a very decentralized delivery model. So we deliver from our sales reps are delivering, our branch managers are delivering, our normal drivers are delivering. So, and we can scale that up very quickly and easily. So I think interacting with, and probably all the major wholesalers, on an e-commerce platform, I think makes a lot of sense in these times.
Absolutely. So in the last week, have you seen an increase in the normal deliveries versus pickup at the counter?
Yeah, we're seeing it mostly in our regional locations. Firstly, the counter traffic is dropping away there and deliveries are increasing, but we actually do quite a high percentage of deliveries in any case. And look, honestly, our transactions, our volume, nothing has really changed in the last 2 or 3 weeks. I think it's going to in the next 2 and 3 months, and we're getting those contingencies now.
Excellent. Now, Ross, if the government moves to a total lockdown, and there's a strong feeling another week or two, our community will go into full lockdown. I think the government's testing the current environment to see if people are participating in the current set of rules. If they're not breaking them, I think we could go to a total lockdown. If that occurs, how will Hager change its business to adapt to still get product to the people?
Yeah, so as you said earlier, Malcolm, the key is essential services. So we have our warehouse in New South Wales. Electrical supply is considered an essential service, but it doesn't matter when it comes to panic and politics. I'll give you an example. France, I'm at the moment quarantined because I flew back from France 2 Sundays ago. I was in Paris and they were spilling out the bars and restaurants. The Prime Minister went there on the Saturday night and said, shut all the cafes. Next day, shut the country. It took 4 days before they told Hager, you're an electrical supplier, you're exempt. By that time, everyone had been let go. So first thing we've got to do is assume the worst. We've got a total shutdown. So I had to tell my employees, that's a suspension of business. You're not paid. So we need to know, do you want to use your leave or go unpaid? We need some emergency. If we had a disaster, we're going to have to access the warehouse with the product shipped. But we hope we're considered an essential service. And then we're going to have the problems we've got at the moment interstate. If I've got to go out and help someone install a main switchboard, can I travel across the New South Wales border? So we need your help, the industry group's help, which I know everyone's working on, that we are an essential service. But we can't assume just because legislation says so, due to politics and panic, we're not blocked for several days before common sense prevails.
Yeah.
Is that basically what you're looking for?
That's it. And just for your information, I've written to every state and federal minister around the issue of the electrical industry being an essential service, and I've got confirmations from half of them so far that if we do go into total lockdown, the electrical industry will be allowed and encouraged to continue participating. And at this stage, at least in Queensland, they're including the average construction site under the definition of essential services. They want construction to continue, including all the sub-trades and all the product suppliers and everything, because as Scott Morrison articulated quite well last night, this is a delicate balancing act between keeping people safe and alive from the virus, but keeping them safe and alive from the economy at the same time. And we could sacrifice one at the expense of the other.
You have to hope they look. We followed New Zealand closing our borders. Jacinda announced a 48-hour notice for lockdown in New Zealand. We've got so far confirmation we're allowed to operate. But India shut down everything yesterday. Our factories shut, our people were shut. And India being India, it might be 3 weeks before the argument's even heard. So in panic, we can't predict. There won't be logic. So I'm assuming, and that's what we're trying to do this week, a total worst case scenario of a shutdown and maybe several days before we get clarification we can operate. So we've got to have phone numbers, I've got to have availability. We're building a pretty severe emergency plan in a worst case scenario.
That's a good thought, and something our members should take on board as well on how they operate. Ross, Rod, if we get to that situation, potentially the rules change to delivery only, I presume your business will cope with that well, and we just ramp up the online ordering and delivery only method at that point in time.
Yeah, exactly, Malcolm. We're probably like a lot of businesses writing contingency plans on the run at the moment, but spending a lot of time on getting that right and trying to cover off every foreseeable event or implication as the government make announcements. So, but yeah, in short, we will still continue to supply in one shape or form or the other. Yeah.
I'm sure we'll. When you realise,
just to be aware though, seaports are not considered essential service. So amongst many things that have to sort out, if we're declared essential service, great, and seaports aren't, there's no long-term supply. So there's a lot to be worked out.
Yeah, I imagine, and I think the benefit at the moment is we have the ear of government as an industry. They recognise how important the electrical industry is. You only need to lose power to one hospital in a town and will become very important, and they'll be paving the streets for us to get in there and get that power back on, and whatever product is needed to achieve that. So I think we're in a highly advantageous position. I just checked, we haven't got any online questions yet, so you must be answering all their queries proactively in our discussion, and we've held them up for half an hour now, so it's probably a time we will wrap it up. I'll just ask you, Ross, if there is any final parting comments you want to make to share with the members before we finish up this morning. Oh dear, Ross, I fear we've lost you and the internet's got the better of us. I was getting the gist of what you were saying about looking after our industry, so we'll take that. I'll just refer to Rod and give him the same opportunity for a closing comment.
Oh yeah, look, thank you, Malcolm, and thank you to your members for the opportunity to talk. For us, the main message is business as usual until it's not, but we will, our number one priority is health and safety. Our number two is supply continuity, and we've seen through our parent company Sonopar what the implications have been around the world, and we believe we'll be able to supply and maintain supply continuity under any situation that presents itself in the coming months. And please, if you've got any questions or need any support, just you can contact myself or contact your local branch manager or regional manager. And your branch manager is probably the first point of contact, or our L&H website, and we'll do whatever we can to help you out.
Excellent. Thank you, Rod. And look, I do want to acknowledge Ross, who unfortunately has dropped out from the show, and it's probably not worth trying to get him back at this late stage, but I want to thank the members who attended as well. As a bit of a roundup, I think you did a great job there, Rod, of rounding up that the industry's okay. We have a viable channel which is very valuable to the industry and very available to get product delivered or picked up right around the country for what is one of our most essential services through this current crisis. But we've got to charge what we're worth and pass on whatever those costs are to the customer. So I think that's a great point to leave it. I really want to thank you, and I also want to acknowledge Ross as well. But thank you very much for your time, Rod.
Very welcome.
And just for those members, the recording of this will be on our Facebook page, and you can download it later. I'm sure plenty of members will want to download it later and have a look at the high quality information we passed across. And members, don't forget there's a 12 o'clock webinar on staffing issues as well. So thanks, guys. We'll conclude it there, and I want to thank you for your attendance, and we'll talk again soon. Thank you very much.